In 2016, Caddo Parish commissioners traveled thousands of miles to South Africa, California, Washington, D.C., San Antonio, and more, all the while charging taxpayers for their airfare, hotels, meals, and conference registrations. The total? 8 out of 12 commissioners racked up a $38,000 bill in 2016, and those commissioners on those trips say they traveled in the name of bettering the parish.
And so I look at it as, and I'm sure some of my other colleagues, you have to go out and get other ideas and do things in order to bring back.
According to records we obtained through public records requests, 4 commissioners, Doug Dominic, Mike Middleton, John Atkins, and Jim Smith, did not travel at all. While Dominic hasn't traveled on commission business since 2014, he tells us he's not against it.
Well, I just think it's important, especially for new commissioners. I do think it's probably necessary for the higher up elected officials, such as the vice president and particularly the president.
On the other hand, Commissioner Atkins says he made a conscious decision not to.
I just prefer not to spend taxpayer dollar on community-related travel. If I have to travel for the commission, I'll travel on my own budget.
Commissioner Mike Middleton campaigned in 2015 on the stance that too much money is spent on commissioner travel.
I'm not just going to get elected and say, well, I didn't really mean it. I'm going to keep my campaign word.
After spending nearly $500,000 since 2007 on travel, commissioners agreed to change the travel policy in early 2016 at the urging of newly elected Commissioner Stephen Jackson.
But people may see it as, hey, you're using these dollars as vacation, de facto vacations, and so just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and that perception isn't reality.
Commissioners voted to take the $15,000 per member spending cap out of the old policy. And instead of commissioners traveling wherever they want, the new travel policy limits where politicians can go, only allowing a few regional and national conferences. All other trips now have to be pre-approved in a public meeting.
I would commend the new commissioners that came in to actually move forward requesting these changes to be made.
But did the policy changes make a difference? We tracked spending over a 3-year period. In 2014, the commission spent about $75,000 on 38 trips made by 10 commissioners. In 2015, $45,000 were used on 28 trips by 6 commissioners. And in 2016, $38,000 paid for 22 trips by 8 commissioners. So the spending is decreasing.
It's a work in process, but we're moving in the right direction.
Middleton doesn't believe the policy changes made a huge difference.
I think may see a little bit of reduction as far as what the expenses are, but I can just say for myself, at least I'm not contributing in any way to that.
Some commissioners believe the downward trend is because more people are paying attention.
I think it's been because of media coverage of that nature that we've all decided, hey, we want to be able to see how we can bring down spending.
I think commissioners become more conscious of traveling, where they're traveling, and who's going to say something and whether or not it's going to get some backlash and that sort of thing.
Commissioner Lynn Cawthorn is speaking from experience. He received a lot of scrutiny after asking for permission to travel to South Africa with the International Arts Foundation, he says, to explore economic development opportunities. He argued since his trip was happening at the same time as a national conference that 5 other commissioners were going to in Long Beach, he might as well use the money in a different way.
Because the opportunity presented itself, I made a conscious decision. Lynn, what do you think is better bang for the buck? To go to the NACO conference along with everyone else, or the South Africa trip? I chose the South Africa trip.
The commission voted to cut Cawthorn a $2,500 check in advance to pay for half the trip. He paid for the other half out of his own pocket.
Do you feel like the taxpayer investment of the $2,500 will pay off, or is it currently paying off?
Absolutely, without a doubt in my mind. We're only talking $2,500.
The commissioner spent a week in late July exploring Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. The trip itinerary reads like a vacation with scheduled stops to restaurants, Robben Island, a famous flea market, a visit to the winelands, cultural and museum tours, to name a few.
But I fundamentally feel that, if there's a need to do something that you feel convicted in your heart to travel that's going to better this community, I would be supportive of any commission to go ahead and do it.
When Cawthorn got back from his trip, he gave a presentation to the commission showing off the food and sights from his trip. He says he spoke at the Johannesburg Tourism Reception and spent time networking.
Those will be the seeds that were planted, and so that when we come back stateside, we can connect the dots to make it come to fruition.
So how will his trip benefit Caddo Parish? He says he got the idea to try and attract an international arts festival, bring a South African play here, and develop a program or workshop for people wanting to do business in South Africa.
What has happened between then and now to progress those objectives you identified?
Okay, we have had 2 conference calls with SHRAC, the Multicultural Arts Center, and the International Arts Festival out of New Orleans as it relates to the play Umoja.
Umoja is a South African play that already makes stops in New Orleans and Dallas, but Cawthorn believes the connections he made may make it possible for the play to come to Shreveport.
I think it's going to be an economic impact to the local community.
While Cawthorn used travel fund money to travel the furthest distance from the parish, former Commissioner Ken Epperson, who recently resigned, did the opposite. He used public dollars to go the shortest distance, using travel fund money when he wasn't even out of town. When the Louisiana Police Jury Association conference came to Shreveport in March, all commissioners attended, but public records reveal Epperson was the only commissioner who asked for a travel advance of $700 for the conference held in downtown Shreveport. How did he spend the money? He spent 3 nights at the downtown Hilton Hotel at $119 a night, twice cashed in his $51 per diem travel allowance for food, spent $13 a day for 3 days on valet parking, and even charged taxpayers for $40 worth of tips. We called Epperson to ask him about his spending. And how far of a drive is it from your house to the hotel?
I have no idea.
But a quick map search reveals Epperson lives 13.5 miles from the hotel. But he says because he was on the executive committee of the association, he needed the convenience of the hotel room. The money Epperson used is specifically listed under the commission's travel policy. But how is it possible to use travel money when the commissioner is not traveling? I asked Crystal Grindley, the spokesman for the Caddo Parish Commission. She says the policy allows for the specific events listed within the travel policy.
I've been at this for 40 years here. I've never heard of a public official who would dream of doing that, much less do it proudly and openly.
Government watchdogger Elliot Stonecipher was shocked when I told him about Epperson's use of travel money.
The fact that he did that, of course, is his way of telling you, me, and 255,000 people in Caddo Parish, go to hell. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I don't care what your attitude is. I took it because I can. What are you going to do about it? It doesn't get much worse than that.
Government watchdoggers like Stonecipher have long scrutinized the commissioner's travel fund.
It is abusive. It is self-pay.
He believes travel is not allowed in the charter, which is the legal document that created the Caddo Parish Commission in 1984. Stonecipher says the charter's authors drew a bright red line about any form of self-pay other than the commission's salary.
When you look at what's happening with this travel abuse, and I think it is clearly abusive, it is 100% contrary to the spirit of the people who wrote that charter.
There's the watchdog groups out there that have been really scrutinizing travel.
Okay.
And they call travel abusive and self-pay. That using this money to travel is basically an additional way to compensate yourself. What is your reaction when you hear things like that?
Tomato, tomato.
Well, I think it is allowed by Louisiana law, and everybody's entitled to their opinion.
But Middleton believes taxpayers are watching and care how their money is being spent.
We don't need to be spending taxpayer dollars because we need to turn around one day here. In fact, coming up in April, we're going to be asking for a renewal of millages, and I don't want anybody to be able to have ammunition against us. I want us to be able to come out there and take care of our business and get it right, and we need to be able to hold our head high on whatever we're doing with taxpayer dollars.
We're only 1 month into 2017, and already this year, commissioners have spent nearly $2,000 on travel. In Caddo Parish, Victoria Shirley, KSLA News 12.